Welcome back to this last episode of the making of an herbal tea garden. This is a summer's of work. Here I have the last picking of the summer, a combination of calendula, mint, and chamomile. I'm going to use this fresh, but this has been dried for the winter. Now it's important to keep in mind this is what I do. I'm merely sharing my experience with you, and it's by no means to be taken as a medical advice. Before you use any of this, check with your medical practitioner to see if you're allergic to any of this. Okay, so let me show you what we have here. From the size of this, that you know, this is my main workhorse, and it's a combination of mint and lemon balm. In every tea I have, I use this as the main ingredient, and it smells wonderful. So, another thing that I like to use as a main ingredient is raspberry leaves. Raspberry has a fantastic herbal smell that I really enjoy. So, this is very important to me in my herbal tea mix. Sometimes if you don't have access to raspberry leaves, you can also use blackberries or strawberry leaves as well. Calendula in its dry form, good as detoxing for liver and gallbladder. This is in fresh form, so I use that. And this is a combination of rose petal and California poppies. And when those California poppy flowers dried up, it shriveled to nothing. After you grow your own tea, you know how much work it takes to make a little bit of tea. Here we have a quantity of dry thyme. Thyme has a fantastic smell in the tea, and I really like to use it as some kind of a flavoring. Finally, here is another mainstay for the relaxation mix. It's the chamomile. Now, on the cold and flu mix side, solely missing in today's mix is echinacea because I couldn't get any seeds to grow this summer because of the heat. But most important in this mix is a dry quantity of dried yarrow. I use that liberally in my cold and flu mix. Also thyme again, because thyme, both thyme and sage are very good for sore throat and good immune booster. Calendula again, because calendula promotes draining of your thyroid and adrenaline gland. But most importantly, I have a quantity of elderberry juice. I also have dry elderberry that I will sometimes throw in the tea. But when you use dry elderberry, it's a little bit more difficult. You have to let it sit and brew until it's totally soft, and then you have to smash it to get the juice out of it. So it's an extra step. So anything I use for relaxation mix, I also use in the cold and flu season mix as well. So any one of this can be part of this. It's just that there are a few things like a yarrow and probably elderberry juice that I would not put that in my everyday use. On the cold and flu season mix side, I also use many other ingredients, many other herbs that I pick in the wild. But since we did not cover any of this in our series, I will not go through it today. 3 ingredient relaxation mix. First of all, chamomile. I'm going to just assume that it is one part to one part to one part, okay? Now there are several ways you can do this. Here's one part. This is about one part. That's mint. And this is one part, okay? You can use this ratio and you can pre-mix it. In the past, I have always pre-mixed my tea, and then whenever you're ready to make it, it's ready for you. But nowadays, I don't anymore, because sometimes maybe you do not want mint in your tea. Sometimes maybe you do not want chamomile in your tea. So however I feel like having, I just go to all these jars and take it from there instead. There are several ways you can make this tea. There are these tea filters that you can buy. And if you want to go through that step, you can pre-package it. You can make them into per serving like this. Just stuff it up. And if you feel like that these leaves are way too big for you, you can always crumble it into smaller chunks as well. Personally, I'm not a big fan of crumbly little things, but that seems like a good size. So there. Now that, if you're making a big pot, you definitely want to stuff it a little bit more. Whoops. And make sure you bring your water to a hot boil. Throw it in like this. Let it sit for about 10 to 15 minutes and then serve. But like I said, I like simplicity. I don't even bother to go with this filter. What I do is I take my ingredient, use a strainer like this. And that's your 3-ingredient tea. Depending on the day, depending on your mood, if you would like to add anything like, thymes, a pinch of thyme, or if you would like to try that holy basil tutsi that we also grew this summer, add some tutsi. Bring your water to a hot boil and let it sit for 10 minutes. So what if you're not interested in a big pot of tea like this for yourself? Because that is about 33 ounces of water there, and you just want a little per serving. Use a small teapot like this with a filter. Strainer, I should say, not filter. And how much do you use? I don't know. Depends on what mood you are in. Sometimes you like it heavy, sometimes you like it light. So, but the most important thing about this is to make sure that the water has to be hot boiling. You can nuke it, but it won't be as good. It won't bring out the best of the tea itself. You can also use cups, coffee mugs like this as well. And a strainer like this works exactly the same. Just make sure that you use this, make sure it's covered, and let it sit for 10 minutes. So this pot is the 3 ingredients: chamomile and raspberry and mint. Okay. There you have it. Serve with or without honey. This pot has a couple more. On top of those 3 ingredients, it also has thyme and it also have holy basil. Again, serve with or without honey. If you would like it to be very uniform, you can always pre-mix it with a strict measurement, strict ratio. If you're like me that do things on the fly, you can pre-mix it however way you want it, and then each cup of it is an individual experience. I want to thank you for joining me on this journey. Like and subscribe, and stay tuned for our future series.